Welcome back to the Deep Dig of Sports Pod. I'm your host, Drew, and my other host right over there.
What's up? It's D. Good to see you again. Today we have a pretty packed podcast, especially considering it's the off season. So we're going to be talking the quarterback trio for the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to be touching base on Brandon Aiyuk, should the 49ers look into trading him. And we're going to be touching base on the Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson trade talks. Before we get into that, go ahead and hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe. If you're listening to this on audio, hit that follow button and rate 5 stars.
And hopefully we find you some comfort today. If you are a 49ers fan, you're most likely a Giants fan. It is opening day. Shout out to E40, this little bobblehead. It's tough day to be a Giants fan. It was a pretty bad loss to Aaron Judge, who was supposed to be a Giant at one point. So we're just going to erase that and let's get right into this pod. And we want to start with the 49ers quarterbacks?
Before we get into that, Giants fucking suck, dude. I'm so pissed.
We're not thinking of that. We're not thinking of that.
Pissed. But anyways, yeah, I'm down to hit on the quarterbacks. So now the trio: Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy, Trey Lance. So the talk of the whole GM coaches meetings that took place over this past week was comments by both John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan about the Brock Purdy Trey Lance situation, and even diving into Sam Darnold. So some highlights of those were the fact that Sam Darnold is going to be splitting reps with Trey Lance, and as of right now, John Lynch says that the leader in the clubhouse to be the starting quarterback is obviously Brock Purdy. So just kind of give me a little bit of your thoughts as far as what you took from those conversations and what that means moving forward.
I think it's odd to me. There's such a strong contingent of fans still on Twitter saying that Trey Lance is going to be the starter no matter what. Like, even over Brock, he should be the starter. When the team, these aren't like leaked sources. These aren't anonymous tips. The team has time and time again confirmed that they believe in Brock Purdy and they want Brock Purdy to be their guy. If they believed in Trey Lance, Sam Darnold wouldn't even be here. I mean, we'd have like Sudfeld back in here. We'd have Chris Streveler or something, But the fact that Sam Darnold is paid a pretty good penny to be here, and they already said that Sam Darnold is splitting first-team reps with Trey Lance. This is an all-out battle for the number 2 spot for the 49ers quarterback room. Brock Purdy is their starter going forward as long as he's healthy, unless there's a big unless there. It's huge unless Trey Lance or Sam Darnold show out like MVP level football, which I doubt is going to happen. So that's kind of where I think the team is telling you what they believe and who they are, and a lot of fans just don't want to believe it.
Yeah, I think it's a very tough situation because you never know with something like this, especially like he's the second person to get this. The other one is Nick Mullins. You just don't know how Brock Purdy is going to actually turn out after this surgery. I'm a big Brock Purdy guy. I think that he actually showed that he can really shoulder this franchise and get them where they need to be and be very efficient. Obviously, more so than Jimmy Garoppolo was last year. But not only that, obviously where Trey Lance was, like, you know what I mean? He's kind of light years ahead of that, and he's shown it on the field. So yeah, if he's 100% healthy, he's going to be the starter moving forward. And you're right. They didn't bring Sam Darnold onto this team to just be the third string guy. Like, that wasn't the sell to him. The sell was you have the potential to actually see game time. Like, we know that San Francisco 49er quarterbacks get hurt. Just what it is. You have the opportunity to be the number 2. And if you are the number 2, history shows that you will actually see active game time. If you're Sam Darnold, you don't think that $3 million, like, he could have got that elsewhere and been a, like, for sure number 2 rather than battling for the 3rd spot. I think he took less to be on this squad specifically. And they had to have told him, like, hey, you have a shot at being the number 2 or game 1 starter. So it kind of shows me where you're at. If the only thing that does, like, again, really kind of hold me back from being like, yeah, like, Sam Darnold is going to be the guy moving forward if Brock Purdy's out, not there, is the fact of what they paid for Trey Lance. And it's just unprecedented. Like, you've never seen such a high draft pick just never get the chance to start games consistently. Say what you want about Jamarcus Russell, but at least the Raiders got years out of him and he actually played games. And by the end of it, they knew what they had and it wasn't good. With this, are you really going to go a solid 3 years with Trey Lance really not seeing any game time and then ship him off? Like, that's the only thing in my mind. It's like as a organization, you have to do your due diligence, but when is that going to come?
Yeah, and my thing with that is they've seen him in practice. So to see him for that amount of time that he's been on the team and not feel comfortable being like, I mean, they were comfortable last year saying he's our guy, we're going to roll with him and Mr. Irrelevant as a backup potentially. Before Jimmy came back, they were comfortable saying Trey Lance is our guy and we'll roll with a nobody rookie backup.
Yeah.
And now the case has changed. Like, they're not comfortable enough with what they've seen from Trey to just like have him out there and be like, well, he can sustain the team for a few games until Brock Purdy comes back. And I think it has to do, I don't think they're thinking about draft status anymore. It's irrelevant to them. It's relevant to the fans, but it's not relevant to the team because Brock Purdy played way above his pay grade and what he was drafted last year. It's about who's going to help them now. But if you want to factor in the draft status, the timeline of Trey Lance it's fucked because he hasn't played. They don't know what they have in him. And pretty soon he's going to come up on that 5th year option and he's going to come up on that second contract. And who's going to command more money? The number 3 pick or Mr. Irrelevant on their second contract? It's going to be Trey Lance. He's going to be worth more money if say they play the same level, say they're both the same level of production. Trey Lance is commanding way more money on his second contract than Brock Purdy. So you have to factor that in if you're 49ers like, hey, if Brock Purdy's doing what we want and he's playing great, we can sign him for a cheaper contract coming up, and Trey Lance is going to get more money that we can't use to build around our team. So I think that's what it is too, is he's going to be worth so much more money if he is good compared to if Brock was good right now.
Yeah, I mean, but you also figure it out as an organization. Like, okay, well, we have set amount of time. Obviously, they didn't use all of those years. That's when you should be winning championships with your rookie quarterback when he's making, close to nothing. But they didn't take advantage of that. But you just make it work. If Trey Lance is a guy and you got to pay him whatever you got to pay him, but realistically, you can still try to build around it. And you see that's what the Chiefs are doing with Mahomes. It's hey, take a discount so you could ride the bus. We're going to see that now with Philadelphia moving forward. They're going to pay Jalen Hurts. That was the number one thing coming out of Eagles camp in these meetings was, hey, we got to pay Jalen Hurts. That's our number one priority. So, I mean, if he's the guy, you have no problem paying that, a pretty penny for it, but you don't do what the Giants did and pay Daniel Jones for one season of work. You have to have that body behind it, that full resume. And we're just not seeing that with Trey Lance.
That's what I'm saying exactly is, say Trey Lance does play next year and he has a middle of the road year. Are you committing Daniel Jones money to him now? Because that's kind of the going rate for like mediocre starting quarterbacks right now.
Yeah.
Are you paying him $30+ million a year for, okay, he's always been injured. That's partly on us, but yeah, he's always been injured and he hasn't shown anything amazing consistently. And we're going to pay him $30+ million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into a situation like Daniel Jones and the Giants.
That's true. But also, like, he needs to see some game time to get at least some trade value. Or if they're just going to ride it out and rock it through the entire contract and be like, hey, it is what it is. We tried. We had him here. In the end, it doesn't really matter.
And I just wanted to bring up this last talking point with Trey Lance. Do you think he is a possible trade piece in this year's draft? Or even this offseason at all?
No.
You don't think he's getting moved?
No, not at all. I do not see that happening. I think if you're going to take a flyer on him, you give a 5th round pick, realistically. And even then, that's kind of a push on it. But I think maybe after training camp and OTA is over, like, and you see some preseason games, like you're going to give extended look at Trey Lance. Maybe you can then, pawn him off to somebody else for next year's draft. But I don't see it being a discussion this year. If you're a GM right now, what makes you go out and be like, I want Trey Lance over who I can draft in the even second round?
Yeah, well, let us know in the comments. Do you think the 49ers should trade Trey Lance? Do you think he's going to be the starting quarterback to start the year? Let us know. Well, let's stay in the realm of the 49ers offense. A lot of rumors flying around this offseason for Brandon Aiyuk. I know that someone said that the Chiefs are trying to pursue Brandon Aiyuk right now. Do you think it's actually possible that he could get traded this offseason?
I know that they would probably prefer Brandon Aiyuk to a guy like Deebo Samuel as far as like wide receiver one. You know what I mean? Because one, Brandon Aiyuk is going to make less money this season than Deebo Samuel. But we know trading Deebo Samuel is kind of out of the question at this point. I kind of do see it being like a very viable option. Would I want it to happen? No, but I think it's something to look at. If you look at the 49ers as a whole, the offense is making a lot of money besides like Brock Purdy, who's not really making anything. George Kittle is one of the highest paid tight ends. You have Deebo Samuel, who just got broken off a big chunk of change. We have Trent Williams. We have who else is highly paid? Oh, Christian McCaffrey is making double digits millions.
Juszczyk's the highest paid.
Juszczyk. We're still going to have to pay Nick Bosa. So, cap space is really filling up, and you're going to have to, pay Brandon Aiyuk a good chunk of change in order to keep him on the roster if you want to extend him out. So I think it is viable if you can get something in this year's draft. I know people are saying that, this year is not really too deep of a draft, but if you look at it this way, second round picks are going to be a little bit more valuable because there's only 31 picks in the first round this year. So of that, safeties are actually pretty deep safety class. So that's something to look at. Linemen, defensive linemen and offensive linemen are something that's going to be coveted moving forward. I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen, but I think they're going to listen to talks, obviously.
Yeah, I think my first reaction was like, what a joke. There's no way we're going to trade Brandon Aiyuk. And then I kind of started thinking about it like, well, can we really afford to re-sign him? Yeah, at the number that he's going to want, because that's the downside of having a loaded team. Everyone's getting paid, but not everyone could get paid, I start to question, like, maybe we will keep him around with the 5th-year option, and then we can extend him out after that, because you could play salary cap bingo and like maneuver around the way like the Saints did, and it's going to catch up to you eventually. Like the Chiefs pay a bunch of people and like they just keep on pushing back the salary cap hits. So you can play that game, but it's going to get to you like eventually it's going to catch up. I don't know if the 49ers are willing to do that, but you got to think like some of these players that the 49ers are paying are older. Like you said, Trent Williams, we're not going to be paying him for the next, 2-3 years? Like how long does he realistically have to still be playing? He's pretty old. And then Juszczyk, is he really going to keep being the like by far highest paid fullback for us for like 3 more years? And then I would say maybe even Deebo in 2 years would be more tradable than an Aiyuk, because his contract hit is going to be like over 20 plus mil for a cap hit. And he's going to be an older player. He plays very physical. Is he going to be around physically in 4 or 5 years compared to a Brandon Aiyuk, who's a pure receiver, legit route runner? So, I mean, I think you have to factor in Deebo Samuel's our number 1 receiver, but Brandon Aiyuk could be our number 1 receiver of the future. So are you willing to give that away and like try to find another guy in the draft and like bring him up? Or do you want to kind of hold him and kind of risk maybe having to move someone else later?
The one thing on the like Deebo and Aiyuk is that Christian McCaffrey is there and he does kind of play a Deebo role somewhat, but also Deebo has carried this offense multiple years. Like I think there is something to like be said with that. Like he's such a unique player. I don't think the NFL has seen it before. I don't think they're going to see it moving forward. I know a lot of people are going to try it, but there's going to be one Deebo Samuel realistically. What is that worth to your team rather than what is it worth to somebody else? I think that's also at play here. If someone's going to make a trade for Deebo Samuel, it kind of has to be the perfect fit. It has to be, okay, well, we're getting Deebo, but we also have someone who can take the top off and who could actually be a true wide receiver. Well, we can just give him screens, feed him over the middle, or even have him on a reverse. With that being said, like I could see them moving on from Brandon Aiyuk and instead just drafting guys and just seeing who works out in those mid to late rounds, which we know the 49ers have a lot of mid-round picks just because have a lot of comp picks. They're already maxed out. I don't think any is going to be good as Brandon Aiyuk, but Jawan Jennings can take a step up. Danny Gray can take a step up. Ray McLeod actually looked good at certain points. So there's other guys on the team who will still be here at a much lower price tag, if that makes sense. So if you can cash out and get something now, like a first rounder this year, a second rounder this year, maybe you do it.
It could be, and that's just the detriment of having a really good roster is you're going to lose some guys who the fans love and the team loves because they're going to go get paid. Is it the year to do it? I don't know, but it would be really interesting because we have so many picks in this draft, in a draft where, okay, we traded away our early picks because of the Trey Lance deal. We have a lot of picks in this draft, and it's going to be interesting to see which way we lean with those picks. I would hope we just draft like 11 linemen and really see, can we find a diamond? Can we find a hidden gem and really find a staple in like the 5th round for our offensive or defensive line? Are we going to lean into the secondary and really flesh out the safety position, get another person to compete for a cornerback spot? Are we going to go receiver heavy and really try to round out that room just in case Brandon Aiyuk is gone? So there's a lot of different ways it can go, but you definitely can lean receiver in this draft, especially in that 2nd, 3rd round range. It's going to be an interesting draft. Let us know in the comments, would you trade Brandon Aiyuk for the right deal? And should we draft a receiver? I think we're going to go to Aaron Rodgers now.
I'm down to touch base on Rodgers. It's crazy, dude.
So I saw a tweet today that said they're for sure going to get a deal done with the Jets before the draft. But I don't know how solid that is. This whole situation has been weird. And isn't it weird how Brett Favre got traded? He got traded to the Jets, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just happening all again, even though Aaron Rodgers doesn't think he's Brett Favre. So
he's also going to steal from 4 people in Mississippi.
Ooh, don't do it.
Allegedly.
Don't put us in the McAfee lawsuit. Yeah. So what's going on lately with that?
Yeah, I mean, again, from the owners and coaches meetings, they actually came out and said Joe Douglas of the Jets was like, "Hey, besides Aaron Rodgers, we do not have a plan B. This is it." When they asked Robert Saleh, like, "Hey, does a veteran quarterback need to be at OTAs?" He was like, "Hey, there's no mandate, but we feel comfortable that if a veteran quarterback were to come in and actually know the coordinator, we feel pretty good at basically alluding that it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers doesn't need to show up to OTAs. That's something that I already talked about." I think by all accounts, like this is going to happen. It's just, what is the compensation going to be? I would not trade this year's first for Aaron Rodgers. I would make it a conditional pick that if he stays, through if we get a, hey, I am not going to retire, stamped and sealed and approved, then yeah, I'll do it next year. But I'm not giving up this year's first round pick for what?
No, and I read a report that they actually came off that 13 pick, that the Packers are willing to not go for that first round pick anymore, and that they've been kind of ridiculous in their trade demands. They're not really in a situation to demand anything when Aaron Rodgers said, "I'm only going to the Jets." It's really this game of a power struggle. Like, do the Jets have more leverage because Aaron Rodgers said he's coming to our team only? Or do the Packers have more leverage? Because what are the Jets going to do realistically if Aaron Rodgers doesn't go to their team? Robert Saleh already said that Zach Wilson is their number 2 quarterback right now to an empty roster spot. He's their backup to nobody. And so they're already committing everything to Aaron Rodgers as if he was there. It is who has leverage? Who's in the driver's seat right here?
I would say it's the Green Bay Packers. Like realistically, they could be like, all right, well, Aaron, well, you can go ahead and retire then. Realistically, if that's what you want, you can go ahead and retire. And guess what? If you want to unretire, we still own your rights. We've seen that with Sean Payton. They still had to give up a first-round pick. I thought it was fucking ridiculous. I was like, hey, there's no way that anyone who wants to acquire Sean Payton is going to give up a first-round pick. You can go back and check the tape. I was like, no, I'm seriously adamant about that. And guess what they did? They gave up a first-round pick because when push comes to shove, if that's really your guy and that's what your franchise need, that's what you're going to give up. And so the Green Bay Packers are in this position right now where they're kind of tired of Aaron. But realistically, if he wanted to roll it back, cool, let's do it. All right, Aaron, you know what it is. Like, you know the offense. You don't have to show up to OTAs. We'll be here.
The Packers are trying to compete next year, or they're kind of tearing it down? Because again, in Packers fashion, they haven't really added anything to improve the team. They haven't really added free agents. And then they actually came out and said that we need to temper expectations for Jordan Love. So they're really getting ahead of themselves to say, hey, we might not be good next year.
I think they're going to give it the old college try because the division's not crazy for them. The hottest team is going to be the Lions.
And they're building something pretty special in Detroit, I think.
But Detroit's going to Detroit. You know what I mean? I would be very hesitant to say, like, I think the Lions are going to be a fun team. I think it's going to be like really good watching them, but I'm not confident that they're going to win the division. And then looking at the Vikings are probably going to be worse. I know they're looking to get rid of Dalvin Cook. So if I'm the Packers, I'm like, okay, this might be one of the, like, a division where it's a very, very good toss-up. If we can move off Rodgers and still then take that cap space and do something with it, because there's a lot of free agents that still haven't signed and they're going to take a smaller deal. Why not take it in Green Bay? Let's do that. Hey, let's make it, especially in the NFC when you can get, a wild card spot with not that great of a record. Why not make a playoff push? I think that,
we're just gonna skim past the disrespect of Chicago and not even bringing them up in the division. I know they're not great.
Fucking garbage. No. Bears fans, shut the fuck up. You guys didn't win the Super Bowl. You guys are fucking ass. I think realistically what's going to happen is you guys are going to be in a position to draft Caleb Williams or Drake May, and that's going to be your new quarterback next year. Like, watch. Target.
They got a lot of picks. But yeah, as far as Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, I think, is he really worth like all this trouble that the Jets are putting themselves through and the compensation they're going to give up? Is he still special, and can he still win a championship?
Maybe it's just one of those things where you get a guy in a new environment and it lights a fire under him, and he's like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm up against stiffer competition here. Like, I want to prove that I'm the best. I want to win MVP. I want to win another Super Bowl. Let's go for it. I would bet against that. If I'm going to be honest.
You got Zach Wilson giving you hell every day
at practice. I got to see Zach Wilson, and it fucking makes my life a nightmare. I would bet against it. If I'm going to be honest, it's going to be a very tough spot. Like, all the hoopla and all the noise that's coming around already when you're not even on the team, then put that you're not going to go to OTAs. You've already been a guy who does not work well with younger guys. It's going to be tough. I think it might be a shit show. If I'm going to be honest, like it might be pretty bad.
And I'll just say, I was just in New York for a week and I didn't see any Zach Wilson jerseys. I didn't see any really Jets jerseys. I think if Aaron Rodgers goes there, there's going to be a month where it's just going to be there's going to be a month in the first part of the season where it's just a storm of Aaron Rodgers New York Jets jerseys. So that's going to be cool to see. There's another quarterback who is MVP, 26 years old. Okay, let me tell you this. If there was a 26-year-old quarterback, proven franchise guy, won an MVP, prime of his career,
His motto is nobody cares, work harder.
would you trade for that guy?
I fucking would. I'm like, yo,
Well, nobody in the NFL would.
How ridiculous is that?
What's going on?
So Lamar Jackson actually came out. This was actually a brilliant move by Lamar Jackson. So he sends out a tweet prior to John Harbaugh going on and speaking. His tweet basically says, I requested a trade almost 3 weeks ago. I want to go somewhere where they actually want me, and I want to win a Super Bowl for that franchise. The ball's now in Baltimore's court. Like, we've seen that they're not moving really in free agency. Lamar wants out. I think it's one of those things now where he feels so disrespected that no, even if they were to come to a fully guaranteed deal, which we know hand and foot, like they do not want to do this, he's going to say no.
But what if I told you that Baltimore said that their own receivers are trash and then they signed Nelson Aguilar? Why wouldn't Lamar want to stay with that?
It's tough. It's tough sledding for the Baltimore Ravens. If you're an offensive weapon, do you want to go there? Knowing what the turmoil is?
Nelson Aguilar and can't find another job, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like no like offensive weapon is gonna want to go there. If I'm like a rookie, I'm like, fuck. Like, don't draft me, not Slytherin. It's tough, dude. I think like the sooner that they get rid of Lamar Jackson, and I mean get rid because like it's making them look bad as an organization, the sooner that then they can like start to rebuild their image. Hey, we're a player-friendly team. We care about our culture. We care about, we want to run the rock and we want good defense. Okay, cool. That's good. But on the other hand, you have not given Lamar Jackson any weapons. Like, what have you done to make this guy succeed while he was in your offense? Not a whole lot. And he was the offense. There's a difference between being the entire offense and leading the offense. And they have done nothing to make him be able to lead a productive offense. He's been the entire offense. He was the like rushing leader. He was doing everything. So it's ridiculous. Did you see? I seen this clip from Nick Wright. And I'm not a big Nick Wright guy, but he was like, if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, why wouldn't you? Because you're in talks with Joe Burrow as of right now. Why wouldn't you just seal the deal on this whole Lamar Baltimore Ravens thing and give Joe Burrow a fully guaranteed contract? And I started to think about it, and I'm like, dude, that's actually fucking killer move. If you give him whatever deal and you make it fully guaranteed, that shows that, hey, like this is now going to be the standard. It gets that quarterback out of your division, and the Baltimore Ravens go back to irrelevancy.
It's a ballsy move, but also you're going to be the villain of the NFL because everyone hates that the Deshaun Watson contract. I think that's why everyone's saying collusion, because nobody wants quarterbacks to have a fully guaranteed contract. And I would say on the Lamar situation, everything leading up to this offseason was Lamar's fault, in my eyes. He didn't have an agent. This could have gotten done a long time ago, but he's not open to negotiation. He's just kind of like, this is what I deserve. Give it to me. And then if he had an agent, he probably could have got traded to Miami a couple years ago when the Tom Brady thing happened.
True.
And if he had an agent, he probably could have got traded to Atlanta when Deshaun went to Cleveland. I think this has really been a situation of Lamar kind of brushing them off and not willing to negotiate and not going like the proper way. He's like having his business partner try to reach out to them, and they're like, what the fuck? Like, that's not how we're doing business. But now it's on the Ravens. All of this offseason, this is the Ravens' fault because they're not willing to like, hey, let's go try to make a deal. Let's let Lamar go figure out what he can get and then come back to us. I saw actually a report today. Don't know how true this is, but it said that Lamar doesn't want a fully guaranteed contract. He wants just more guaranteed money than Deshaun got, which if that's true, that's stupid. That's so dumb. He's like, actually, I don't want 100. Don't give me the same Deshaun contract. Give me more.
And you don't even have to fully guarantee the whole contract, but I want more money than Deshaun.
$300 million, but guarantee me more than Deshaun got. That's not fully guaranteed.
Fuck it. Stretch it over 10 years. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I don't know. This whole thing's a mess. I think there's like a point of no return. And I think Lamar is kind of reaching that point. Like,
it's already past that point. If you're doing
tweeting out shit before Harbaugh is going to talk, like no teammates have stood up for him. I saw that teammates came out and were like saying, "Oh yeah, Lamar's a great guy. He's a great teammate," but anonymously. Who is anonymously supporting their quarterback? Like, just come out and say it. Support him.
I feel like the Baltimore Ravens it's a toxic organization at this point. If you're over here trashing your receivers, like
currently on your
team, they're currently taking up a roster spot, like they don't give a fuck, dude.
Duvernay is like, why you say fuck me for? Why you say fuck me for?
So, like, I think, yeah, you can't really speak up and be like, yeah, I mean, like, he deserves this contract, because then they're gonna be like, shut the fuck up, like, we're gonna do you like we did a Hollywood Brown. We're gonna send you to the fucking desert.
Yeah, you guys I feel for the receivers in Baltimore. But yeah, do you think? Go ahead and comment.
What teams, like, I've heard zero buzz about any teams being involved. I know that people were saying before, like, don't believe everything you hear. There could be teams that are interested, but the fact that you have to give up your first round pick this year, it's really kind of holding a lot of people back from making that decision. I think it's actually going to happen after the draft. We'll start to see that start to pick up.
The fact that the Commanders aren't all in on this guy.
Sam Howell. Sam Howell, baby.
Sam Howell could potentially be Brock Purdy, and they're not trading for Lamar Jackson. I do think I saw, on Pro Football Talk, it could be that Snyder doesn't want to pay. Like, he's selling the team. The team's getting sold. So everything's getting pushed back to a certain date. So after he sells the team, then the new owner's cutting checks for these free agents. And so why would he go out of his way to help Washington be a good team when he's selling the team?
Yeah, that's true.
So I think they're in a weird situation. If you're Atlanta, you're ready to roll with Desmond Ridder.
Who else did they bring in? Didn't they bring in someone else?
Mariota was last year.
Was it Gardner Minshew this year?
No, he's on Colts.
Who the fuck did they bring in? I
thought the Colts.
The Colts, like, but they're in prime position to get somebody's leftovers.
Will Levis. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I think there is Lamar fucked up on this also. Like, it's a bad timing thing because no team has the compensation that they're willing to give up and the cap space that they're willing to give up. Because then you basically say, we're giving you all this draft capital and we can't sign free agents and we have to give all our money to Lamar Jackson. Yeah. All right. Now we have to field the team. Like, it's a bad time to make this trade for Lamar. For any team.
But if you're the Jets, like, if you're going to give up that much for Aaron Rodgers, why wouldn't you turn around and just be like, Lamar, we'll do it. Fuck it. Like, if you're going to be our guy.
Who's going to be the team that says, fuck you guys, here's $250 million, Lamar?
Detroit. Imagine.
Jared Goff in Baltimore.
Yeah. I mean, bro, like, that would be again, any NFC team immediately becomes a contender with Lamar Jackson. That's the star power. That's the, like, skill set that Lamar Jackson has. I think it's going to be an NFC team that's going to creep out and be like, you know what? Fuck it. We'll do it. Like, hey, we'll give up all this. We'll do this. Like, I think it's going to happen after the draft. And I think it's going to be an NFC team.
If I'm Arizona, I'm giving up Kyler in a second for Lamar Jackson. I'm doing that trade ASAP. We could swap, and then I'll give you like another first round pick, and give me that.
You guys can take back Hollywood Brown.
One of these trash receivers you drafted. Did you see also another, like, fuck you move that Baltimore was trying to make was to sign Baker Mayfield?
No way.
Yeah, Baltimore offered Baker Mayfield, but he said, He wasn't interested, and he went to Tampa.
Damn.
So I think they're fully prepared to move on from Lamar Jackson.
Now they're not. Like, you know what I mean? They're gonna have Snoop run it back. Like, it's gonna be bad. Like,
let us know in the comments who should trade for Lamar Jackson. Would you give him a fully guaranteed contract? And I think that's all we got for today.
I think that's it.
Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Later.